a dog barking. And so the Lakshmana then understands this dog has got a complaint. And the dog says, the Lakshmana says, why don't you come and tell your complaint to the king? The dog says, no, I'm not allowed inside the kingdom, the court's place where there are brahmanas and all of these people. But Rama gives special permission. So the dog comes. And what is your complaint? The dog says, there is this such and such brahmana. He has unnecessarily beaten me. And Rama says, okay, call him. So they call this brahmana. So why have you beaten this dog? So this brahmana says, I was as usual going for begging, and I was on my way and I asked him to move. He didn't move, so out of anger, I just bet him. So now you must be punished. So all these ministers were thinking what punishment to give to this brahmana. He's a brahmana, it's a negligible offense. Forget it, my lord, it's not worth giving punishment. But the dog says, if you make anybody a king, and if they are not properly guided, if they don't have sufficient sukruti and being guided by proper people, he will get carried away and he will take advantage of that position, and the next life he is destined to become a dog. Like Prabhupada tells, I will not name the politician, but he would say, when India became free, this person was the chief person in the country, and now he has become a dog in Scandinavia. So like that, it's a dangerous thing. When the kings become, or when they are not guided properly. Long time ago, I was hearing a story from a devotee about how there is this kingdom where they have a peculiar rule. Elephant, every 5 years, elephant goes with a garland, and whoever it finds it likes, he will put the garland, and that person is made the king. And the elephant has got the knack of finding the most austere person. And so then people started to practice tapasya, austerities and all of that. And so this man, he wanted desperately to become king. And so his efforts succeeded. And so this elephant detected his austerities and he garlanded. So he became the next king. And so he started to enact like a king, and forgetting his duties, he started to make merry and enjoy and all of that. And then the sage who has told him about this, if you do this, you will become a king, he comes to the kingdom. And this king is enjoying his riches and tells the sage, why have you come? See, I told only half the story. By the time I completely told you the story, you just left and went for austerities. I want to complete the story. What is that? I said, if you perform great austerities, this elephant will choose you to be the king. But I haven't told you what will happen after 5 years. 5 years you will be a nice king. You know what will happen after 5 years and what has happened to the previous people? The same elephant will come and pick you up and take you deep inside a wild jungle and throw you there and come back, and you will not be able to come back again. That means your term for king to enjoy is only 5 years, and after that you will be doomed to death in this wild jungle where you will be killed by these wild animals. That means in this 5 years you have a choice, either to enjoy this kingdom or to do something about it so that you will not die miserable death. So this person, he then asked, what should I do in order not to become, die, in order not to die that miserable death in the jungle? Then he says, go to that place in the jungle now itself with all your troops. clear up that place, make a nice city, grow crops. In 5 years, you develop it so that when you go there, you will live a happy life there also. So, why the devotee told the story is it's like our human life is like a king's body. We have been blessed because of previous austerities. We've got this, or previous sukruti, or whatever, transmigration. We got this human body. And if we enjoy uselessly like a king, we are going to be doomed. Just like this dog, this king became a dog. So this body is very responsible. Similarly, the king's position is very responsible. You might know about this personality in Mahabharata called Nahusha. Have you heard Nahusha? King Nahusha. So King Nahusha, it's a little big story, but what I heard in short is he gets the position of King Indra because Indra is absent from heavenly planets. So this person gets carried away by that post, and he starts to abuse that power to the extent that he wants to steal the wife of Indra. And one time he even engages the sages in carrying his palanquin. And one sage he mistreats. Hey, why are you not carrying the palanquin properly? Carry it properly. And the sage, he said, enough is enough. Now I curse you to become a serpent. And then this Nahusha becomes a serpent and falls down to this planet. And then during the Pandavas are in Vanavasa, the serpent goes and catches Bhima, this python. And in order to get freed, he puts a condition to Yudhishthira. So this sage says, if only when you learn how to be a proper king, again, then you'll be relieved from this body and you'll become a king again. That is what the sage says, how to get rid, because Nahusha becomes very submissive. Oh my God, please sage, don't do this to me. And then he says, oh, when you learn the proper etiquette of a king, then you get the body of a king again. So this python tells Yudhishthira, in order to get free, then you have to tell me what are the good rules, how to be a good king. Then Yudhishthira tells, this is what you need to do to be a good king. You need to be submissive, you need to abide by the Brahmanas, guided by these Brahmanas. And then he releases Bhima. And then gets his body back. So like this you see several examples in scriptures how when somebody misuses their power, they get curtailed, they get curbed and taken care of by either Brahmanas or the Lord himself. What is the famous example of a king who was abusing his power, but he was controlled and eventually killed by the Brahmanas? Nimiya. Vena. Vena is the father of Prutuma. And in this particular chapter, there is a king in connection with Parashurama who also does similar kind of, exhibits similar kind of pride and arrogance. So who is the first king killed by Parashurama? This is high. Isn't it Kartavirya Arjuna? Oh, okay. He's also called as high. So you might have heard during Kamsa's time, when he's taking Devaki and Vasudeva, some invisible voices coming from sky. It's not invisible. Just like behind the curtain, voices coming. So this Kartavirya Arjuna, he has 1,000 arms. So he is unnecessarily becoming powerful. So to use his power, what he does, he goes to these mountains and starts to pulverize them into pieces. Because you have power, you have to use it, right? This is the problem. When you acquire knowledge, when you acquire power, you want to test it out. So I know one person who has studied how to overcome when you are jailed, or when you break a law, you can somehow figure out and come out. So he would voluntarily break, and he would use his knowledge. But one such occasion, he was actually jailed, and he had to spend a lot of time. So your power, your knowledge may prove to be your enemy. So he was like that. So he comes to the ashram of father of Parashurama is who? Jamadagni. Comes to the ashram of Jamadagni with all his soldiers. And Jamadagni immediately offers them everything, all the nice feast, everything, all this with all this paraphernalia they have. And he becomes wondered how you're able to arrange in such a short time. And then it's because of that Surabhi, right? Kamadhenu or Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu cow. And Kartavirya Arjuna says, I want this cow. But Jamadagni denies. But he forcibly takes away the cow by injuring people in that ashram. And then Parashurama comes and sees. And then he becomes so upset that he fights and kills Kartavirya Arjuna. And then on this incident where it is said here, he has killed these Kshatriyas 21 times because they are proud of their position. So if the Kshatriya becomes proud, gets carried away, the Lord comes, or his Shaktyavesh Avatara comes. Like in Queen Kunti prayers, I'm sure all of you know about these prayers. There's one verse where it is talked about why Krishna comes to reduce the burden of this earth. Huh? Krishna comes to reduce the burden of the earth. Starts with Bha. Bhara. Bharavataranaayanye. Bharavataranaayanye. Bhuvo nava ivo dadau. Sidantya bhuri bharena jato hi atma bhuvartitaha. So Queen Kunti says, some people pray, or some people say, why Krishna appeared? Anye, they say that why Krishna appeared? Bhara avataranayanye. This bhuvo bhava yuvo dadhau. Bhuva means earth. Earth was Sidantya, aggrieved because of Bhara. This burden on it because of these Kshatriya kings who was expanding their empires, who were not properly guided, who were carried away by pride and ignorance. Just like Bhuvo Nava Iva Udadhau. Nava Udadhai. Nava means boat. If a boat becomes very heavy on a sea, it's very dangerous, isn't it? It can become submerged. It needs to be, that burden needs to be reduced. So Krishna came, Jato hi Atma Bhuvartitaha. Atma Bhuva means, Atma Bhu means Swayambhu, who is Lord Brahma, who is not born of a regular union between mother and father. Born directly from Lord Narayana. So Atma Bhu Artitaha, when he prayed to Kshirodakshai Vishnu, it is said that the Lord will come as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. So the Lord came to reduce the burden of the earth. So Kshatriyas need to understand, or leaders need to understand, that it's a very responsible position. I was reading Bhagavatam a few days ago, and I came across this most amazing point. I was blown away by it. I'll mention that point. Like this you'll find many times in Prabhupada's books. So this is in connection with Prithu Maharaj gets visited by this, I think 1 Kumara or 4 Kumaras, I don't remember, but Kumaras, one of them or 4 of them. So he receives them and he starts to praise them. So this verse comes in that connection. And what is amazing about it is this. I'll tell that verse, what it is. Swam eva brahmano bhunkte, swam vaste, swam dadati cha, tasyaivanugraheenannam bhunjate kshatriyadayah. The Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras eat their food by virtue of the Brahmanas' mercy. It is the Brahmanas who enjoy their own property, clothe themselves with their own property, and give charity with their own property. It's a very cryptic verse. Now, Prabhupada explains very nicely what it actually means. What is amazing thing I found about this? Just look at this. In actuality, everything in the world belongs to the Brahmanas. And out of their humility, the Brahmanas accept charity from the Kshatriyas or kings and the Vaishyas or merchants. Everything belongs to the Brahmanas. But the Kshatriya government and the mercantile people keep everything in custody, like bankers. And whenever the Brahmanas need money, the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas should supply it. How amazing, isn't it? We think we own everything and these people are beggars, I'll give a little bit. It is actually their money. I am keeping custody. So we should not get puffed up when we are giving in charity or feel very proud. Their money I am returning. I am just a custodian. It is like, Prabhupada writes, not my words, it is like a savings account with money which the depositor can draw out at his will. The Brahmanas, being engaged in the service of the Lord, have very little time to handle the finances of the world. And therefore the riches are kept by the Kshatriyas or the kings who are to produce money upon the Brahmanas' demand. You go to the bank and you ask money, if the bank denies, the bank is at fault. So whenever there is charity asked by Brahmana, Kshatriya should supply it, Vaishya should give it. So it is said, actually the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas do not live at others' cost. They live by spending their own money. Although it appears that they are collecting this money from others. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas have no right to give charity, for whatever they possess belongs to the Brahmanas. So it's not that they are giving charity. It actually belongs to the Brahmanas. Therefore, charity should be given by the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas under the instructions of the Brahmanas. Unfortunately, at the present moment, there is a scarcity of the Brahmanas. And since the so-called Kshatriyas and Vaishyas do not carry out the orders of the Brahmanas, the world is in a chaotic condition. So now people may say, oh, this problem, that's why the monarchy, the problem existed. All these Kshatriyas, they would become very powerful and they would abuse their power, and so the Brahmanas would have to kill them, the Lord has to kill them, so on and so forth. That is why democracy is the best. One problematic king can cause everything problem. Therefore, democracy is the best form of government. Is that the case? See what Prabhupada says in the purport. Although monarchies overpowered by modes of passion and ignorance have been abolished in the world, the inhabitants of the world are still unhappy. Why? Because although the qualities of the former monarchs were degraded by taints of ignorance, these monarchs have been replaced by men of mercantile and worker classes whose qualities are even more degraded. So Prabhupada mentions this point from Jiva Goswami, which is basically a verse from Bhagavatam. Svavidvarahoshtrakaraihi samsutam purushah pashuhu. Means a pashu or an animal praises another animal as great. It's just a bigger animal. So if democracy means what? Aam Admi, common set of people having modes of passion and ignorance, or Sudras, they are electing another person obviously they'll think like them only. Which Sudra can give me best amenities? And so another Sudra or maybe another Vaishya is placed in that position. So he will try to in turn please with them with supplying all sense gratificatory things. And that is why people are still unhappy. As long as there is no God consciousness, people will never be happy. So either you are having a monarch with modes of passion and ignorance, or a democracy where people who are Sudras electing another leader, people will still be unhappy. So there has to be a Krishna conscious governance. Rajarshi has to be there. So Prabhupada gives a solution. In the final, we didn't read about that purport, but I'll just read it out. You don't have to display it. So, what is the solution? Therefore, the prajas or the people in general must take to the Krishna consciousness movement. So, how does it solve when the prajas take to the Krishna consciousness movement? They will elect a Krishna conscious leader. So Prabhupada mentions this Krishna consciousness movement, the Hare Krishna movement, is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So very interesting, right? We say Hare Krishna mantra is the sound incarnation. Have you seen anywhere Prabhupada is writing here? Hare Krishna movement is the sound incarnation. In another place also I saw. Prabhupada is writing, Hare Krishna movement is the sound incarnation of the Lord. The Lord, Krishna, has appeared as an incarnation by his holy name. Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Therefore, when the prajas become Krishna conscious, they can then expect a good government and good society, a perfect life and liberation from the bondage of material existence. This verse, Kali Kale Krishna Rupe Nama Avatar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells to one devotee in Bhagavatam, not Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. He lives in New Jersey. Shuklambar Brahmachari. So Shuklambar Brahmachari is a great devotee of the Lord. He, by profession, he is a Brahmana, very poor Brahmana, a beggar. Of course, not beggar, but he lives by begging, taking alms, and he is satisfied with whatever he collects. But he is always in ecstasy, singing the names of the Lord. So he would carry this bag of this rice that he collects, broken fragments of rice people give in charity. So one time he would pass by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stops him and snatches this bag from him and starts to eat the rice. And Shuklambar Brahmachari becomes so upset. My lord, this is not fit for you. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, oh, you're eating so much nectar every day. Let me also eat it. So like that he snatches and eats. And then he tells him. So in Chaitanya Bhagavat it is mentioned. The position of Shuklambar Brahmachari. Oh, listen, Shuklambar Brahmachari, I reside permanently in your heart. Whenever you eat, I eat. When you go on your begging rounds, I accompany you. I have descended to distribute love of Godhead, and you are my servant lifetime after lifetime. I hereby bestow upon you Prema Bhakti, which is my very soul. So this is a position of Shuklambar Brahmachari. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells him, he talks to him about the importance of the holy name, and in that conversation this verse comes. So very important instructions. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Shuklambar Brahmachari, he quotes that famous Hare Nama verse. What is that? From Bruhan Naradi Purana. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Iva Kevalam, Kalau Nastieva, Nastieva, Nastieva Gatiranyatha. And then he says, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. In this age, the holy name of the Lord is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. And then he says, Hare Nama Eva, Namaiva Kevalam. Kalau nastyeva, 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 gatiranyata. So 3 times it is mentioned. Eva 3 times for emphasis and 3 times Harer Nama, just to make sure common people understand. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further explains that to chant this holy name always, one should be humbler than the blade of grass in the street and devoid of desire for personal honor, but should offer others all respectful obeisances. And in that, one of the purports Prabhupada mentions, this practice of forbearance, Trunadapi Sunichena, is very difficult. But when one actually engages in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the quality of forbearance automatically develops. So it's not that one has to develop that forbearance and chant, but when you start chanting, this quality automatically develops. And then Prabhupada also mentions a very important point. This example indicates, the grass example, indicates that the spiritual master or leader should not be proud of his position. Being always humbler than an ordinary common man, he should go on preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And when chanting Hare Krishna mantra, in the beginning one may commit offenses. Nama bhasa and nama aparadha. In this stage, there is no possibility of achieving perfect love of Krishna. Therefore, one must chant the Hare Krishna mantra according to the principles of the above verse. Trunadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna. And the next portion is very important. Please read very carefully. Please listen very carefully. How to chant. One should note in this connection that chanting involves the activities of the upper and lower lips as well as the tongue. So if you see somebody chanting Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama, 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 upper lower lips is not working, no? All three must be engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Upper, lower lips and the tongue. Ja and pa. Japa. So, the words Hare Krishna should be very distinctly pronounced. Hare Krishna. And heard. Distinctly pronounced and heard. Sometimes one mechanically produces a hissing sound instead of chanting with the proper pronunciation with the help of the lips and tongue. See, Prabhupada is addressing everything. Chanting is very simple, but one must practice it seriously. Therefore, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, advises everyone to keep this verse always strung about his neck. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. How to understand it? Because they are servants of the Lord. Everything belongs to the Lord. They are Vaishnavas, and Brahmana means Brahmana Vaishnava basically. Vaishnava, Brahmanas, they are non-different from the Lord. Everything is the Lord's property, so everything belongs to them. No, but they have not come to that position of, they are in illusion acting as somebody else. No, this is only referring to proper, bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Not everybody. So we should make a placard of that, and when we go out, can you please read this? Can you please read this first before you give me donation? Give back my money. I came to take back my money. Yeah, you had question? Randraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.